many years, I lived in Philadelphia, Boston, Baltimore. I do not forget some delightful spots in California, nor in the old world at Oxford, London, or the environs of Paris. But Greenwich, for simple, unaffected charm and beauty, holds its own for those who know it well. I love to think of it as an undiscovered country. I know some who've chosen Greenwich for its pure air, for its educational advantages for children, for its yacht clubs and country clubs, or just for its sheer beauty and its fine people. My heart lives, and I know it will always live, in Greenwich.
When author Oliver Huckle wrote those words over half a century ago, Greenwich was already known far and wide as a rare community, a town with a rich heritage and an uncommon personality. Today, there remain many sites that give us a sense of the town's history, suggestions of other days long gone. And it is here at the Bush Holly House, built in the 1730s, where the treasures of the past are carefully chronicled and preserved by the Greenwich Historical Society.
The town was founded in 1640 on the 18th of July, and the first settlement was in Old Greenwich. And it was settled in the name of the New Haven colony by Daniel Patrick and Robert Fee.
Greenwich was given its charter in 1665, becoming a part of the colony of Connecticut. And by 1672, the settlers in Old Greenwich, needing more land, purchased the western part of Greenwich from the few remaining Indians. During the Revolutionary War, Greenwich had its share of battles and heroes, the most noted being General Putnam. His escape from British troops down a rocky steep, now called Put's Hill, has been immortalized over the years. One of the last battles in Greenwich took place on the lower landing of the Mianus River. The home of David Bush remained unscathed and still stands today as the Bush Holly House.
And then, came the normal development. Of course, it was became a great farming center and industrial center, in that there were sawmills and grist mills, and of course the natural resources of the town were so magnificent. So, I think it's generally conceded that Greenwich it was very richly endowed from the beginning, just by nature.
Once Greenwich was a prosperous farming community. Potatoes and other crops sailed from docks in Coscob to feed New York's burgeoning population. When the railroad cut through sleepy Greenwich in the mid-1800s, the town was changed forever.
Land for farming was getting scarce. There were other generations coming up, and they would do some other trade that didn't need a lot of property. But with the coming of the railroad that had full service by 1849, they were able to go to New York to work in a shop or store. They would talk to other clerks about the advantages of country living, that Greenwich was a pretty place to come to, and that you could get there in an hour or less.
I'm not so sure that Greenwich had any great special cachet or personality at that point. When the tycoons and the banking barons and so forth discovered Greenwich, my understanding is that a great many of them, if not most of them, started coming here really just as a summer resort. Great old inns around here, 40 minutes or whatever it was from their offices in New York by train. I think that's what started the influx of wealthy, influential, many cases really, celebrity recognizable names in Greenwich.
They were very generous. They built libraries for the town, beautiful new churches, all denominations, hospitals, the town hall. Greenwich Avenue was paved and the trolley came through. All these people who had come from New York had a great deal to do with the improvement of the town.
Now, at the time of my young days, Putnam Avenue was a dirt road, in the middle of which was a trolley car track. And the trolley cars came backwards and forwards to Stamford. All of Putnam Avenue were houses, some of them very large houses. It was an avenue of elm trees, and the feeling of the town then was one of really a country New England town. And Glenville, it was fun to go to Glenville because the one active manufacturing place in the whole of the town was the felt factory. There was a dam there. It was a very exciting place. Then we come to the whole waterfront, and there was a wonderful display. To go down to the Sound, watch on Saturdays and Sundays the racing and the arrival of large yachts, making calls on such friends as E.C. Benedict, who himself had a large yacht. The whole waterfront was active and alive. The backcountry people really and truly developed the most beautiful part of Greenwich, and they did it marvelously. There was a community, the center of which was Round Hill. There were those who had their horses in hunting. The gardens, the houses, was an Eden, still is, in a way. I don't believe that today most people who live around in that part of the world have any conception of the difference of what it used to be.
Today, Greenwich is more vital and diverse than ever, a place that 60,000 residents love to call home. Greenwich is a wonderful blend of stunning scenery, historical snapshots, sophistication and culture, modern services and shops, and giving people. Greenwich is also a significant business center. Some of the nation's leading corporations are here, contributing a dynamic quality of power and influence and stimulating the town's business overall. These companies also generously support the town's cultural events and charitable organizations. Just 28 miles from New York City, Greenwich feels the bustle of the big city, yet projects the splendor and values of old New England. Old-fashioned values that embrace tradition, pride, and a neighborly concern for other townspeople. This spirit extends throughout the town's 50 square miles in 6 different communities, each with its own distinctive personality and charm. Here, within one town, is a full spectrum of landscapes and lifestyles.
We've got a lot of communities, a lot of neighborhoods that make up this community called Greenwich. It is not just a Gold Coast of big estates and mansions. So it's, it's not an exclusive community either. Durham is a fascinating neighborhood. lovely mansions on the water. And then you've got the smaller, more modest homes that come into the Chickahominy area. And then you'd find Arnold's Bakery, and then you would find, our largest public housing development, Armstrong Court. And I think the hub of that community sort of evolved around the Hamilton Avenue School and the St. Roch's Church. It's a very close-knit community, very protective. And then you go into Glenville, which I think has probably gone through more changes than almost any other neighborhood in town because of a lot of development, both commercially but primarily residential.
Riverside is in most people's minds an ideal American community. There are a variety of homes on quaint, winding roads. Riverside also enjoys a large expanse of the town's waterfront area. Many of the town's recreational and leisure activities are found in Old Greenwich. Rich in history, Old Greenwich proudly maintains the charm of a small New England village. Coscob is captivating. Once a thriving seaport, this historic community now boasts some of Greenwich's oldest houses, which have been carefully preserved. Over the years, writers, poets, and artists have made this their haven. Beyond the parkway, the backcountry is rich in natural woodlands, spacious estates, and country clubs. Round Hill remains the center of this distinctive community. The Audubon Center is located here, where one can take a closer look at nature. And as you travel North Street or Lake Avenue, you find some of this country's most striking homes. Central Greenwich is the main shopping area of the town and the center of government. Unlike many towns of this size, Greenwich is governed by a Board of Selectmen and Representative Town Meeting, or RTM, with over 200 elected members. Here, residents can shape their community's future directly.
This is really very much like the old New England town meeting, where you have a broad cross-section of the community, and it represents very diverse groups and very diverse interests.
As you look at the way Greenwich operates, you find that we're very much oriented towards consensus. So it necessarily takes us longer to decide on things because we value the opinions of our citizens. But the rewards are great because when we get finished, we have a solution that the majority favor. We fund it, and we go on and do it. And that's the way the town has worked, and it's worked well.
Greenwich is a proud community. Proud not only because of the town's great variety and physical beauty, but because of the contributions of its people. The more than 4,500 volunteers of Greenwich expand the community's resources enormously.
We have all kinds of services provided to the community, such as the Red Cross, the library, the Bruce Museum, and so on, where people volunteer to work, and the organizations could really not operate without the volunteers there.
There is an extraordinary wealth of talent and expertise in this community that really benefits the organizations and in turn goes back out to the communities in the quality and quantity of services available.
The community is interested in us, and they have shown this time after time.
Today's Greenwich combines the best traditional qualities of a New England town with the conveniences, sophistication, and prosperity of a cosmopolitan city.
The population has gone from my days as a young boy of 25,000 to now 60,000, with about 20,000 people commuting in each day.
We are a major job center, and it brings a lot of benefits, but it also brings a lot of problems. And if we did not have that corporate community and all of those people who work here during the day, eating in the restaurants and spending their money here and shopping on the avenue, I think that our commercial section would be less vibrant than it is. But we do have to recognize that along with that creates some traffic problems.
So that on Greenwich Avenue you can't get a parking space for love nor money at lunchtime.
Of course, with more people comes more municipal problem. That's a factor of civilization. As I look around, I think we're ahead.
The services the town provides for its citizens are exceptional. The Greenwich Fire Department is staffed with devoted professionals and qualified volunteers. The police force is dedicated and caring. There are excellent facilities and services for our senior citizens. The Greenwich Library System is an active community center, and our public parks and recreational facilities are outstanding. The town boasts one of the finest school systems in the country, both private and public, and the students represent all the countries of the world. The town is also richly endowed in the arts, and cultural activities abound.
The Greenwich Arts Center is truly the hub for the arts in Greenwich in many ways, from music to art studios to sculpture studios, dance, photography, the Art Society. We're truly a center for all those who want to practice and experience the arts.
The obvious advantages of Greenwich are pervasive. Yet, for all that Greenwich offers, residents strive to make the town a better place than it already is.
There are 13 garden clubs here in Greenwich, and they're all dedicated to the beautification of our town through their civic improvement and conservation efforts.
It's not a one-way street with a lot of people, a lot of caring, loving people in this town, and that's what makes Greenwich special, I think.
The quality of life aspect that I think is the most outstanding feature of the town of Greenwich is the sharing of the community and the community spirit where people are involved.
I believe Greenwich is unique in many ways. In North Greenwich, we have the rolling hills, the countryside. We have dense forests in some areas of town, and we have the beautiful shoreline and beach property. And to have all three of those in one town is just great.
Greenwich has always been a very popular place to live, and it continues to be that. We even have a President of the United States that was raised in Greenwich.
Greenwich is not a stereotype. It's as varied as the people that live in it, as varied as its geography, as varied as its history. And Greenwich is a town that cares. It's a good town. It's a great town.
It's got character. It's got nobility. And it's a wonderful place to live and work.
I can't imagine living any other place. And to me, Greenwich, Connecticut personifies the good life.
I love to think of Greenwich as an undiscovered country, known only to the discerning souls who love peace and beauty. My heart lives, and I know it will always live in Greenwich.